George Bruno with the 21 Report. We're at the 21 Convention Patriarch Edition, and I'm talking with Elliott Hulse. Welcome, Elliott.
Thanks, George.
All right. How'd it go today on stage?
Really well.
And what was your topic?
Defending marriage in a degenerate age.
It certainly is degenerate, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd say.
What are the enemies of marriage today?
Well, I went through a list of about 10, and I began with one that I learned here in the manosphere from Rollo Tomasi, and he refers to the female primary social order, something of that effect. Mm-hmm. Hypergamy, unchecked hypergamy. It's one big part of it. But then it also goes so much deeper. I think that's like the biological component.
Yeah.
But when you look at consumerism, and the focus outside of the family and more on how much can we get and how much can we buy and how much can we consume, as opposed to how much time and energy and effort can be given to the family for its own nourishment, soul's nourishment, the state with easy divorce, feminism with their objective to destroy the family. I gave a really good quote written by Dunbar, I forget her first name. But so I went through a list of a myriad of different ways that there's this onslaught against marriage in our culture.
How do you fortify a marriage with all this stuff being against it?
Well, that was what my talk was about, and one of the things that I offered as far as fortification is concerned, I think it's important for men to take the position of leadership in their home. And I spoke about where we get our authority, and that it's important for us to draw down divine authority by having some faith. That your woman's not going to trust you just on your own authority. Many of us have strained or estranged relationships with our fathers, but there's always the archetype pattern of the father, and whether it's right or wrong, it's your level of conviction that the path laid in front of you for how to be a man and how to lead your family, the faith in that gives you the strength to stand on, that gives her the trust in your ability to lead. So it's like it's very difficult for us to rest on our own authority because I say so.
Right.
And so a part of my talk was just to at least consider, I know we've got guys of different religions and some are religious or not, but at least to consider it as a red pill mechanism for how to raise your family.
Right. Now you're a father of 4, and you've been married for a while, and you go way back with your wife, right?
Yeah.
How long?
We started dating when we were 14 years old.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and we got married at age 23, and we have 4 children. So a part of my talk was the benefit of limiting sexual partners and not being promiscuous, men and women. Of course, I have to be an advocate for dating and marrying early. I did it and it worked. Yeah. And I laid out all the reasons why it worked, and so
that's pretty awesome. I think because there's so many waves coming against marriage, and society's pretty wacky. I was talking to the guys earlier. I'll talk to a young man and say, so do you want to have children? He'll say, well, I wouldn't want to bring children into this crazy world. Yeah. And I'm thinking that's kind of like waving the white flag of surrender and just giving up before you even start.
And that's like saying I wouldn't want to give medicine to this dying patient. When we bring children into the world who can reflect the divine splendor, children who are good children, we're offering medicine. We're injecting medicine into a degenerate culture.
Yeah. And they're focusing more on the degeneracy in the world rather than the power in their own parenting. Like, I would want to bring children in this world because my children are an antidote to the degenerate society.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's focusing on despair. And I think a lot of guys in the quote-unquote manosphere succumb to despair and negativity and darkness. And our message is be fruitful and multiply.
Yeah.
There's no better way to create a legacy. Your kids will outlive you, hopefully, and your seed goes on.
Yeah, and I think there's no better way than to be fruitful and multiply, to perpetuate cultural values and norms. We're living in a country where white people, the people who built this country, are having less children, and Puerto Ricans and Mexicans are having a hell of a lot of kids.
Yeah.
And, that's not to say that it's good or bad, but if we want to preserve American culture, Western culture, then the people who created it should be having more children.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, they're going to be out-popularized pretty soon.
Yeah.
Outnumbered.
Yeah, I had heard at one point, in 20 years, Italy won't even be Italian anymore because of the influx of non-Italians in Italy.
Right.
Can you imagine Italy won't be Italian?
Yeah, how weird.
Like, that's just an odd concept. It is. I find that bringing children into the world gives the world hope.
Yeah.
And there's never a right time to have kids.
Right.
Was society ever perfect for child rearing? I mean, every era has its challenges. Yeah. Every era has its wars. So for someone to say in despair, I don't want to bring a child into this world, it's almost, they just gave up too early. Yeah.
Weak.
It is weak. It is weak. And I'm finding a lot of young people are saying that.
Yeah. We're weak.
What do you think contributes to that despair? Why do they have that?
There are all kinds of myths that attend that also.
Yeah.
Like this whole idea that the world is going to melt because of climate change.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the lies that white people have been more apt to just accept.
Yeah.
That we should stop having children because the earth is going to melt.
Yeah.
And I tend to think that there's a social agenda behind that. Science has shown us that that's not true. Not only that is it, not to say that it's not true that the earth is getting warmer, but the earth is supposed to be getting warmer. We go through these cycles. It's normal and natural. Don't stop having children because the earth is getting warmer.
Right.
Just acknowledge it.
Yeah.
And so, where am I going with that? My point is, I don't remember.
Well, I can see doing things like not littering because you want to leave a nice, clean earth. I can see not like wasting natural resources. That's cool. But lumping not having children into that same category, to me, is going a little bit too far. I think so. And I think it's alarmist in nature.
Yeah, so that's right. So back to your question, and why are people feeling this despair? Because they're swallowing the media bullshit.
Yeah, yeah. Where does hope exist in this world of degeneracy? How do you give hope to young people? I know you spoke on marriage and family.
To give hope, you've got to be inspired. And I love that word inspire because the word spirit, spiro, to inspire, to take in the spirit. There must be something that you've drawn in or has infused itself into you that gives you a courage and a sense of meaning for the future that I think can only come from religion and a religious imagination. More so than religion itself, but the religious imagination that gives us this sense that things can get better, that we can evolve, we can grow in virtue.
Yeah.
And so when we have that, no matter how dark it gets in the mass of the world, there will always be small pockets of light.
Yeah.
And if we can carry that light even in the thickest of darkness, that candles will be lit.
Yeah. You have an influence. You're on YouTube with quite a following. What kind of message do you give your followers?
Well, it has and always will be become the strongest version of yourself. You know, I started as a strength coach, but strength went beyond just the body.
Yeah.
So to be the strongest version of yourself and to empower one another. And that's about being the brightest candle you can.
Yeah.
And being sure that your flame is catching other candles as well.
Yeah. I've watched you on shows like the Red Man Group. And wow, what in addition to that group of men, the perspective that you bring changes the flavor of the Red Man Group it kind of strengthens it, I think. It's not all about picking up women. It's not all about the single life and going wide.
Right.
It's about going deep. And I think you bring a depth to that conversation. That's what I noticed. That was one of the first things that I noticed.
Yeah, thank you.
A depth. Yeah, absolutely. How do you like the convention so far?
I love it. And I love what it stands for more than anything, what it means.
Yes.
It's a sign of the times.
It's needed, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is. Who have you connected with here that you feel that you will stay connected with in the future?
Oh, well, I really enjoyed both the talks and then individual conversations with Steve the Dean Williams.
Steve!
Yeah.
You know what's interesting about Steve? He talk about legacy. And actually, he and Tanner both said something. And I interviewed Tanner this morning and Steve yesterday. And Tanner would say to his kids, "You're a guzzy." Tanner Guzzi would say, "You're a guzzy. Act like it." Steve Williams would say, "You are a Williams." Like when he finds his children acting weak, "You are a Williams." Be worthy of that name.
Yeah, I like
Powerful.
that. Yeah, I resonate with both of their messages.
Holy smokes.
Tanner was also right up there, you know, between the two of them and their talks. It resonated deeply with both of what they offered, and then I had a wonderful opportunity to speak with them yesterday at dinner.
What does it mean to be a Hulse?
To be strong. That's the first thing that comes to mind and comes to heart. Mm-hmm. Hulse is about courage. It's about strength. It's about determination and forward momentum.
Yeah.
And stalwartness, steadfastness. You know, it's very vigorous.
Mm-hmm. I've noticed 3 or 4 times during this talk already, you've taken deep breaths to empower yourself. It's like breathing charges you up. Mm-hmm. Some people, one of the biggest things that I notice with people is that they breathe very shallow. Mm-hmm. You and air are good friends. You and oxygen seem to be good friends.
Mm-hmm. I'm a fire sign. Oxygen and fire, baby.
Oxygen. Yeah, I noticed that. And for the few moments that I saw you on stage, there's periods of silence. You're not just talking to talk. You have periods of silence. And then I watch you look at the crowd and think and make eye contact with people. And I was standing in the back, and as you were walking back and forth on the stage, I watched the heads watching you. It was really interesting, very inspiring, just watching the crowd respond to you. What do you think is the biggest message that the audience left with today?
Well, what I was hoping was to instill a sense of dignity in the marriage archetype.
Yeah.
That there's something strong and masculine and devout to the marriage commitment, you know, because I think it's really been bastardized and taken advantage of and has lost so much of its splendor in our culture. And so what I was hoping is to show them how red pill it is to be married and to be a father. I know our whole conference is about patriarchy. And to bring back and to strengthen a patriarchy, we've got to become fathers. And to be a father, you've got to be a husband. And to be a husband, you've got to lead women.
Yeah.
Be strong for women.
Yeah.
Draw down the divine authority and lead your home. And so between just giving marriage some dignity again, and also with this sense of openness to God and religion as an authority that you can rest on and bring into your home as a foundation for your own strength, faith, really. That maybe I opened some questioning, and exploring.
Marriage and family is not for weaklings.
No.
The first thing that I thought of was, you see all these hats with similar phrases, make this great again, and I'm thinking, make men strong again.
Yes.
Make men strong again. And I think that's what you're doing.
Yes.
I notice that when attendees stand around you, like everyone has their little moments with the speakers in the social areas, after the speeches, in the evenings and stuff like that. When people are around you, they stand taller.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. Their posture is better.
Yeah.
And they tend to mirror you. And you are making men strong again. I observed it. And I needed to tell you that.
Thank you.
It's very, very obvious. It's noticeable. Elliott Hulse. Find him on YouTube. Thank you, Elliott.
Thank you, George.